Hey all, time for another board game, and today we'll be taking a look at the Horizon Zero Dawn board game based on the very popular PS4 game, and obviously there was a sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, which came out on PS4 and PS5. And as far as I understand it, Steamforged Games, who make this game, are also soon going to be doing a Kickstarter for the Horizon Forbidden West board game. So I'll be very interested to see how that one differs from this one. Now, I actually have had this game for about a year and a half, and I also have a bunch of the expansions. I'm only missing one of the Kickstarter expansions, but thankfully Steamforged did actually reprint them, so I'm hoping I'll get that last expansion before the end of the year. But anyway, what we're going to do is take a look inside this box. I'll go through all of the components and give you my general thoughts about the game. Now, I've actually played this game multiple times with my friends, so everything has already been punched out, and I've put some components in these bags here. So you can see lots of different components are already in this bag. And I'll go through these in a little bit. I've got lots of those there. Then underneath we have different tiles for maps. So these are like general sandy ones. And you see there's different things on the tiles. Not much variety in this set, but that's where the expansions come in. Next we have the instruction manual, which is absolutely enormous. There is a lot to learn in this game, and there's a whole multiple different campaigns and different things that you can do, so yeah, quite a meaty game. And then underneath that we have all the other stuff. So this is a miniatures game, of course. It's for 1 to 4 players. You can play single player, and it's actually pretty fun in single player. It's quite a long game, I will say. The box says 60 to 90 minutes to play a single game, and honestly I don't think I have ever had a game go like anywhere near 90 minutes. Normally these take hours, especially if you're playing with 4 players. It can take a very, very long time to play a full campaign. It can be quite rewarding, but it is quite a time-consuming game. Maybe when they say 60 to 90 minutes, they mean per encounter. That would make a bit more sense, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, let's start having a look at some of these. So over here we have some miniatures in this little bit. So we'll have a look at some of these. There are 4 different playable characters. So this one I believe is the Nora, maybe the Nora Huntress. So it's pretty cool. This one I believe is the Banuk character, so from the frozen area of the game. Then we have some machines, so this one is a Watcher. The miniatures are definitely quite miniature, which I know goes without saying, but compared to Deep Rock Galactic and even compared to Hogs of War, these are quite small miniatures, but they do range in size. So we get 4 of these. Next we have these ones, which I think are called Grazers, if I remember rightly. So I do quite like the detail on them. You can see you've got the blaze canisters in the back, and then you've got the horns over here. So Grazers, pretty cool. We've got 4 of those as well. Underneath that we have more miniatures, and some miniatures are a lot bigger than others. So here's another player character. This is an Osserum, so into big hammers and fire and stuff. And then we have the Karja. Moving on to more of the machines, we have here a Scrounger or Scrapper. I can never remember which is which, so Scrounger or Scrapper, and you get 4 of these. Then we have this guy over here, quite a lot bigger than the other miniatures. This is a Charger, if I remember rightly. So they are kind of like horses. Very nice, very detailed, these ones, lots of stuff going on. Then one of the bigger miniatures in the set, we have Shell Walkers. So if you've played the game, these ones are kind of like cargo carriers, so they're hermit crabs, and on the back they've got cargo containers which contain precious stuff. So we get 2 Shell Walkers. And then finally, the biggest miniature in the base game, we have the Sawtooth. So we have 2 Sawtooth miniatures like this. These are definitely the coolest ones, and of course this is the guy that's on the box. Over here we have some components for building the map. So these are sort of like high ground vantage points, and these are relic ruins with similar symbols to in the game. So relic ruins, I think, act like cover, and then the vantage points are to help you. I don't know if you do additional damage, but you get additional points if you take down a machine while on one of these. Next up we have these machine corpse tokens. So you can see they are dead watchers, and these would be littered around the map, and you can use an action to take some salvage from the machine corpses, just like in the game. Underneath that we have the salvage deck, so lots of different cards you can get from the salvage deck, and you would get salvage from defeating machines or looting machine corpses, and there's all sorts of different things that you can get in here. So for example, you could get yourself a chill water, you can get some metal shards, get double metal shards if you're lucky. What else have we got? We have blaze canister, we have a trophy shot which gets you additional points, and yeah, lots of different things you can get within here. Ancient chimes, and essentially the salvage that you get from defeating machines is what you would use as currency to buy your upgrades. In this little bag over here we have sun tokens, which are used to denote your score throughout the game. Here we have the fledgling token, and also I can't remember what this token is called, but this one is for the leader and this one is for the person in last place, to kind of keep an eye on where things are, and you get certain bonuses depending on which of these you are. And these little things here are used to track your level up, so I'll show you that when we get to the cards. And then here are the dice you get with the game. So you get 4 orange dice, 3 blue and 1 black. The black die is a critical die, so 3 faces are blank and 3 faces are a critical hit. The orange dice, I think, is mostly 1s and 2s. There's a blank side here, and you've got 1, 1, 1, 1. So 4 1s, 1 blank side, 1 2, and 1 of those. 3 1s, I can't count. Anyway, so orange dice, and then the blue die, I don't believe have any criticals, but they have a lot more chances of a 2 or a 3 damage, so blue is pretty good. So yeah, you don't get too many dice in the box. I do actually have a second set. So yeah, I picked up a second set of dice just because if you're playing with 4 players and you're all spread out across the table, then you're going to need to have these in reach. So 2 sets of dice for me, but you only get 1 in the box. And then finally we have the cards. So it is a board game, but cards are a big part of it, and there's all sorts of different kinds of cards in the deck, and you'll get used to them as you play. So we'll have a look. So this is a Osram Forgesmith. This is the character card. Over here you can see the salvage you would start the game with, which is a blaze canister, and then this is their base level ability. So this hunter is immune to fire, gain 1 glory point whenever an attack or trap from this hunter applies fire to 1 or more enemies. The Forgesmith is pretty OP if you're playing the game competitively or semi-competitively, I guess. But yeah, less fun if you want to actually just play cooperatively with your friends. Here we have an upgrade card. So as I showed those little icons before, you can upgrade as you go through the mission. So you would start over here at level 0 with a hand limit of 18, and then as you go down you can choose your path to each of these different things. So you can get different things depending on where you're going. Down here you would get a weapon. Over here you would get an ability called Resolute, and you would unlock these as you complete missions with these difficulties. So that's easy, normal and hard. So I do quite like the leveling system. It makes it quite interesting, and this is one thing which I haven't mentioned just yet, is basically every game is a campaign. There are very rare instances where you would only play 1 map. You pretty much have to play a campaign of 5 maps, including a boss, which is why this game can take a very long time to play. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Underneath that we have the starting equipment for these characters. So we have the Osram Arrow Breaker Light, so this is their armor, and you can see over here, if I bring this forward, you've got the number of weaves you can attach. So weaves are like upgrades for the armor, so you can only have one on the base armor. Down here is how much armor you protect against if you roll a critical hit on your dice, and this is the dice that you get with this armor, which is a blue. So little bit misleading because there isn't actually a critical on the blue dice. Yeah, that's what all that stuff means. Then we have the left side of the weapons. So I'll show you a laid out character, but essentially you would have your character laid out with armor underneath, then you'd have weapons on the left, right, and on the top if you're lucky as well. So we have the Tripcaster here, so Tripcaster can lay down traps. And then we have the Osserum Maul, which is their melee weapon. It gets 2 orange dice. It's pretty powerful, actually. And underneath that, we have the upgrades. So this is the Fireforged ability that you get at level 1. That's what that means there. You can see there's lots of different upgrades. We've got some level 2 upgrades. And level 3, this one is a better weapon, the battering ram. It's pretty cool. So lots of different upgrades that you can get. And then here we have the actual deck. So you can see level 0 means this is the starting deck. So you've got some abilities, got some weapon attacks that you can add. We've got some ammunition for all the weapons. So this is a firewire for the Tripcaster. And you can see different things that you can do with this character. So pretty cool. So every playable character will have a deck of cards similar to this, so I'm not going to go through this one as in depth as the first one because you get the idea, but we have the Banuk Survivor with their starting gear and their level up stuff, and then their hand. So the Banuk Survivor has a bow, if we find the Hunter bow. So they have arrows in their starting deck, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's the Banuk Survivor. Then we have the Nora Marksman. So Nora Marksman is very popular, very basic. Pretty much if you wanted to play as Aloy, then that would be the Nora Marksman. So we've got spear and a hunter bow, and upgrades and ammunition and such. So you can see hunter arrows. So yeah, very bog standard character is the Nora Marksman, but that doesn't make it a bad thing. And finally we have the Karja Warrior. So Karja Warrior actually has a blast sling, which is pretty cool, and a halberd. So their ammunition is bombs. You see freeze bombs and stuff. Pretty cool. Some of the other cards you get, these are stamina cards. So they allow you to draw a card. And basically, yeah, it's a way for you to burn through your deck and get some more cards. And there are also some abilities that require stamina, but I believe they're only in the expansions. Then we get down to the merchant cards. So between rounds you get to visit a merchant and use your salvage to buy stuff. So you can see up here this is the cost of a shock wire. It's 1 metal shard, and then that's what the shock wire does. Up here is the level of the merchant, so you get to see the level of the merchant of the same level of the mission you just completed. Unless you have a special card which allows you to see a higher level merchant. So the merchant will sell all sorts of things. They have ammunition, they have coils to make your weapon stronger, they have weaves to make your armor better, they have items like health potions, and they also have weapons. So this one is a rattler, which is pretty good. We've got a shard gambler's box, which is basically a lucky box. Got a new bow up here, this is a war bow. Got different kinds of arrows, so we have fire arrows here, which is kind of interesting. We have more armor, of course, so we've got some more Osserum armor, some more Nora and Banuk. And then we have some weapons for the left side as well. We have Karja Sling and Karja Hunter Bow. So generally the stuff you find in here will be better than the stuff your character starts with, but they get even more better the higher you go. So if we look at the level 2 stuff, so you can get some stuff that is in the level 1, so like the firebomb for example, but the weaves start to get better, and also so do the armor sets, Nora Protector Medium for example, and then the weapons as well get a lot stronger, 2 oranges and a black, and that's before you even use ammo, so very strong. And then we have the level 3 stuff, which of course is the most powerful stuff you can get in the game. So some very, very strong weapons and armor. Ideally you want to get to the level 3 merchant before the final boss, because obviously it's not going to do you good after the final boss. But yeah, the sooner the better, but it does make it more difficult. Almost there, I promise. So then we have the character cards. This is what the different machines will do. So this one we have is the Scrapper. So it was the Scrapper, not the Scrounger. and you can see down here it shows you the behavior of what the scrapper will do. Nothing on that side. So you can see, is there a hunter within 1 square? If yes, they will move 1 towards the closest hunter and then do a melee attack with a range of 0. So that means they have to be in the same square on the board, and then they would move 1 away from the closest hunter. If they are not within 1 square, they would then do a ranged attack. So this is a ranged attack with a range of 2 and damage of 6, which is pretty ridiculous. This thing here means that this ranged attack is reliant on component A. So when we look at the different component cards, I'll show you what that means, but essentially you can destroy his component just like in the video game, and then he won't be able to use the ranged attack. So in that case, this is what this means. This is like an OR. So if they can't do this, they would then just move 2 towards the closest hunter, which then means for next time they would be closer to doing their melee attack. So there's behavior cards for each of the machines. So we have Strider, Watcher, Grazer. Shellwalker is a bit more complicated because it's a larger creature. They have multiple behavior cards, and essentially what you would do is you would shuffle these face down and then draw them one at a time to decide what the behavior is. So it just means that they're a bit more unpredictable, which makes it more interesting. Same with the Sawtooth. The Sawtooth is kind of considered to be the boss of this base game, so the Sawtooth has more behavior cards. So speaking of components, you get these big cards here which give you some more information on the machine itself. So you can see over here we've got the amount of health it has, which is 6. We have the armor, which is 1. This is the number of bits of salvage you would get from defeating it, so that's 1. That's the number of glory points you get for defeating it. And then that is the number of victory points, which is what's required to end the encounter. Down here you also have the component, so you can see the blaze canister over here. It has a 2 health on it, and if destroyed it says this enemy suffers burn. When it comes to the other machines, if we go back to the scrapper, you can see that the component A is the power cell, and if destroyed it disables the A attacks, just like I showed in the previous cards. So yeah, pretty cool. And then you've got things for all the other ones, Sawtooth, Grazer, etc. Some of the cards are more complicated, so I think the Sawtooth is double-sided, for example. Yes, so you can see Sawtooth has special abilities on this side, and then has details on the components on this side. And these cards is how you would decide what missions to do. So essentially, when you are setting up your game, you would have 5 rounds, with the last round being the final boss, and you would be taking these cards and getting the team to decide what sort of mission they want to do. So 2A, 4A, and 6A, that is the names of the boards. So they've got 2A, 6A, etc. on the boards. And then the big yellow circle, sorry, it's not yellow, it's white. Big white circle just denotes where you would start. So your characters would all start somewhere along the edge of 4A here. Down here you can see the kinds of machines that spawn on the A and B spawns on these maps. You've got some rocks spawning on the squares, and then this is the amount of salvage you would complete for completing this. So we've got level 1 maps, we have level 2 maps, level 3 maps, and then finally the Hunter's Call, where you fight the Sawtooth, which is the final boss. You may also see in the top right it says 1 to 2 is 2 and 3 to 4 is 4. This is the number of victory points that are required depending on the number of players playing. So in a 3 to 4 player game you need 4 victory points to complete this level, and in a 1 to 2 player game you only need 2. One last thing, promise. These are bonuses that you can add to the mission. So usually the person that's in last place gets to decide on this, and then they get to look through the deck and decide what they want to do. So in this case we've got, at the start of the encounter, once all of the hunters have set up, you may switch the starting position of any 2 enemies. So because this game is semi-competitive, this could be a way for you to be able to take out a machine before someone else. And then there's all sorts of ones of these, so they could be quite impactful if you're playing the game semi-competitively, and I'll talk briefly about that in a little bit. So when you're playing, this is kind of what the play area would look like for your character. So you would have their character portrait in the middle, and then they'd have a left and right weapon as well as an armor underneath, and you can kind of see the curves on the cards. That helps indicate where everything goes. Over on the right side you will have your upgrade deck as well as your upgrade track, so you can see where you are, and over here you would have your draw pile, which is essentially your stamina. So you would draw cards from here to do stuff in the game, and then once this deck is out, then you can be in trouble. So you've got to keep an eye on your resources. And this is kind of what the board would look like during play. So you would have machines on these purple patrol routes around here, so they would follow the patrol route until they eventually leave the map. So you have to make sure you take out some of the machines to get victory points before they do that. And then there will be different things dotted around the map. Your hunter will be somewhere over there, hopefully hiding in the bushes. So for example, there might be a machine corpse over here, and maybe some relic ruins over here, and a high point over there, for example. Now this isn't actually a proper laid out map, this is just to give you an example of what it might look like when you're in play. And then the general objective is to use your deck, so the ammo that you have and the different abilities and whatnot, to roll dice to take out the various miniatures, and then they will react to what you do. So at the end of each turn, the creatures would then start moving forward, so they might move towards you or move away, and the objective is to essentially take down as many machines as you can before your teammates and get the glory points. With enough glory points at the end of the round, you get awarded the sun tokens, and then the person with the highest sun token score by the end of the game is the winner. Alternatively, you can just play the game completely cooperatively and you don't have to worry about sun tokens at all, and that I think probably is a better way of playing, because I do have some thoughts on it. So the problem with the semi-competitive nature of the game is that you end up essentially constantly trying to sabotage your own teammates. You have to work together to an extent, which is why it's semi-cooperative, because if you all just go off and do your own things, then you'll probably die and fail the mission. You kind of need to work together to make sure you can take down some of the machines, especially the big ones, by doing things like laying down traps or freezing enemies to help bypass their armor, things like that. You do need to work together, but then it's ultimately the person who gets the final killing blow that gets the glory, which doesn't really sit too well with me, because it might be that you pumped 15 damage into an enemy, and then someone does the final 1 damage and they get all of the glory. So that can be pretty frustrating and it isn't very satisfying. But we have some house rules when we play Horizon which make the game more cooperative and more fun, and it's more about just completing the missions, powering ourselves up, and then getting to the final boss. And you can add things from the expansions to make it even more interesting as well. So there are large bosses, for example the Thunderjaw, the Stormbird, which I'll show off in another video, which make the game super interesting. But this is the base game. Usually you can find this for around £80 to £90. I think the retail price is 110 or 120. Definitely get it on sale for about 80 or 90. I think it's worth it because it is a really fun game, and if you're a fan of the Horizon video games, then this will be great to play with your friends, or even by yourself, because the creatures, the machines rather, they have their objectives and they have their own behaviors, so it means that you can play completely on your own and just play against the machines, and that's a perfectly valid way of doing it. In fact, there are some expansions that require you to play solo or with only one other person. But anyway, that's my overview of the Horizon Zero Dawn base game. I hope you found it interesting and maybe it informed a purchase. I will be going through the expansions one by one as well in future videos, so keep an eye out for those. Those will definitely not be as long as this one, let's hope. But anyway, thanks very much for watching.